43 years ago, one Schwinn sold for $189 at a hardware store in Ohio. That same bike just crossed $4,200 at auction. These 13 models are the ones already moving, and most owners have no idea what they are sitting on. Schwinn Paramount. Built between 1938 and 1994, the Paramount was never cheap, but it was never this valuable either. Schwinn's problem in the late 1930s was simple. European racing bikes were destroying American prestige on the road. Their solution was to pull their best frame builders off the factory floor and hand braze a steel frame so tight that tolerances were measured in thousandths of an inch. The Paramount that came out of that process weighed under 21 pounds at a time when most American bikes pushed 35. Real-world proof landed fast. Schwinn-sponsored riders took the Paramount to national championships within 2 seasons of its release. The culture layer is where it gets interesting. Owning a Paramount in the 1940s was the cycling equivalent of driving a pre-war Porsche. That status never fully left. Today, pre-1960 chrome lug examples in original paint are clearing $3,500 to $6,800 depending on condition. The reason the next bike commands almost as much despite being half the age comes down to one decision Schwinn made in 1963 that they almost immediately regretted. Schwinn Varsity. The Varsity launched in 1960 at $49.95, affordable enough to put 10-speed cycling within reach of American families for the first time. That price point forced a compromise. Steel cotered cranks, heavy wheels, brazed construction that prioritized durability over weight. Critics called it a tank. Riders called it their first real road bike. By 1971, Schwinn had sold over 1 million of them, making the Varsity the best-selling 10-speed in American history. The cultural status is almost paradoxical. It was too common to be collectible for decades, and now that commonness is exactly what makes early examples rare. A first-year 1960 Varsity with matching decals and original Schwinn-approved components has recently sold between $900 and $1,600. The problem is that 99% of Varsities were ridden hard, modified, and stripped for parts over the years. Finding a complete, unmodified 1960 to 1963 example is genuinely difficult. What Schwinn built next was the opposite, a bike so deliberately upscale that it sold poorly and is now almost impossible to find. Schwinn Superior. Launched in 1967 as the gap between the Varsity and the Paramount, the Superior never found its audience. At $89.95, it was too expensive for casual buyers and too basic for serious riders. Schwinn discontinued it quietly in 1979 without fanfare. The frame sets used Reynolds-adjacent steel with lightweight lugs, not as refined as the Paramount, but significantly better than the Varsity's construction. Production numbers were low enough that surviving examples in original condition are genuinely scarce today. Complete 1967 to 1972. Superiors are now trading between $700 and $1,400 at specialty auctions. The kicker: most sellers list them as Varsities because the decal placement is similar at a glance. Knowing the difference between a Superior and a Varsity head badge is currently worth about $600 at auction. The bike that follows sold in numbers that dwarf the Superior and is becoming valuable for exactly the opposite reason. Schwinn Continental. The Continental ran from 1960 to 1993, one of the longest production runs in American cycling history. The 1960 to 1967 versions used the same frame geometry as the early Varsity, but with a derailleur system sourced from Simplex rather than the budget Huret units. Weight on those early models came in around 28 pounds, which sounds heavy today, but was considered genuinely sporty for American production bikes at the time. The Continental's real-world proof is in its racing lineage. It was the preferred training bike for several Midwest cycling clubs through the late 1960s, a fact documented in period cycling magazines and club rosters. That same documentation is now what separates a provenance-backed Continental from a standard example at auction. Early pre-1968 Continentals with original simplex derailleur are now pulling $500 to $1,100 at auction, with chrome lug versions pushing the top of that range. The ones from 1968 onward are worth far less. Schwinn changed suppliers, and the quality dropped noticeably. The next bike on this list had no such quality problem, which is part of why it is now worth more than the entire lineup surrounding it. Schwinn Paramount Track. The track version of the Paramount was built to order in small batches for competitive cyclists who could not afford a European custom frame but refused to race on anything mass-produced. Between 1955 and 1979, Schwinn produced an estimated 1,200 to 1,800 track Paramounts. The records are incomplete because many were built as individual commissions with no standard production log. The frame geometry was aggressive: short chainstays, steep head tube angle, no provision for brakes. These were purpose-built racing machines and nothing else. Real-world proof: documented podium finishes at the Pan American Games in the 1960s with Paramount track frames. Today, a verified pre-1970 Paramount track in raceable condition is a $7,000 to $12,000 bike. The verification matters. There are reproductions and heavily modified road Paramounts circulating as track models. The serial number format changed in 1965, and that date is the first thing a serious buyer checks. That kind of detail separates the next bike's value too, but for a very different reason. Schwinn Collegiate. The Collegiate is the overlooked one on this list. From 1954 through the mid-1980s, it was Schwinn's entry-level adult bike. 3 speeds, balloon-adjacent tires, upright geometry. The design pulled from British roadster tradition, which Schwinn adapted for the American commuter market. Most sold for under $60 new, and nobody thought twice about them. The reason early Collegiates are climbing in value now has nothing to do with performance. It is the aesthetics. The 1954 to 1962 Collegiate in two-tone paint with chrome fenders and original Sturmey Archer 3-speed hub is one of the cleanest mid-century American bicycle designs ever produced. It photographs like furniture. Interior design accounts and vintage Americana communities have adopted it as a visual object first, a bicycle second. Lifestyle and vintage decor markets have discovered it, and the prices are responding accordingly. Clean, complete examples from 1954 to 1962 are now trading between $400 and $900. The condition standard here is strict: missing chrome, repainted fenders, or a replaced hub. Hub cuts value by 40 to 60%. The next model ran alongside the Collegiate for years and is now beating it at auction. Schwinn Breeze. The Breeze launched in 1952 as the women's counterpart to the Schwinn world. Step-through frame, chrome detailing, balloon tires. It sat in Schwinn's lineup mostly unchanged for over 2 decades, which speaks to how well the original design worked as a daily rider. What makes early Breezes collectible is the chrome work. Schwinn's plating quality in the 1952 to 1958 period was exceptional, and surviving examples with intact chrome are striking objects by any measure. Weight ran around 38 to 42 pounds, depending on accessories, which tells you these were never performance bikes. They were rolling pieces of American industrial design. The Breeze was never marketed at cyclists. It was marketed at anyone who needed to get somewhere. That positioning is now its strongest selling point in the collector market, where lifestyle appeal consistently outperforms technical specification. Documented sales from 2024 and early 2025 put clean 1952 to 1958 Breezes between $550 and $1,100. The two-tone color combinations, particularly the green and cream, cream and the red and white are what drive the top-end prices. Repainted examples, even with correct colors, sell for roughly half that. Now, into the top 6. Mid-video, CTA. 6 bikes left, and the 3 at the top of this list are the ones dealers actively search for at estate sales before the family even lists anything. If this kind of research is useful, subscribe and turn on notifications. New Schwinn and vintage road bike breakdowns drop every week. Schwinn World Traveler. The World Traveler arrived in 1970 as Schwinn's direct answer to the European touring bike market that was beginning to seriously threaten American brands at home. The frame was chromoly steel, a meaningful upgrade over the mild steel in the Continental, with investment cast lugs and braze-on fittings for racks and fenders. At $139.95, it undercut most comparable European imports by a wide margin. Schwinn intended it as a practical touring machine, and it worked. Loaded touring clubs in the early 1970s adopted it as a legitimate alternative to Raleigh and Peugeot imports. The production window was short, 1970 to 1979, and demand was modest enough that Schwinn never produced in large numbers. That combination means early chromoly examples in unmodified condition are now trading at $800 to $1,600. The detail that separates a 1970 to 1973 World Traveler from a later one is the lug casting quality. Early lugs have a sharper, more detailed profile that is visible under close inspection. The next bike was produced for an even shorter window and is now considerably harder to find. Schwinn Sports Tourer. The Sports Tourer ran from 1971 to 1979 and occupied an unusual position in the Schwinn lineup, above the World Traveler in component quality, below the Paramount in price. Reynolds 531 double-butted tubing was the headline specification, the same steel used in professional European racing frames at the time. Schwinn sourced Shimano and Suntour components from Japan, a departure from their usual supplier relationships and a signal of how seriously they took this model. Weight came in around 23 pounds, competitive with European 10-speeds at twice the price. The real-world proof is documented in period cycling press. The Sports Tourer received favorable comparisons to Peugeot's PX10 in a 1973 Bicycling Magazine road test, which was significant coverage for an American brand. Reynolds 531 examples, identifiable by the tubing decal on the down tube, are now pulling $1,400 to $2,800 at auction. Non-Reynolds versions of the same model sell for roughly a third of that. The tubing decal is small and frequently missing on stripped or repainted bikes. What comes next carried Schwinn's most expensive components, full stop. Schwinn Superior Deluxe. The Superior Deluxe was Schwinn's attempt in 1972 to build a production bike that could compete with custom European frames without the Paramount's hand-built price. The result was a short-lived, rarely discussed model that most Schwinn historians treat as a footnote. Reynolds 531 frame set, Campagnolo Nuovo Record de Rayures, Weinmann center pool brakes. The component spec reads like a custom build list, not a production catalog. Retail price was $285 in 1972, which translates to roughly $2,100 today. Schwinn sold relatively few, discontinued the model after 2 production years, and left almost no paper trail behind. Verified examples, those with original Campagnolo components and matching serial numbers, are now trading between $2,200 and $4,500. The verification problem is significant. Campagnolo components were frequently swapped onto other frames, so provenance matters enormously here. A documented, unmodified Superior Deluxe with original paperwork is the kind of find that shows up once at a major auction house and does not come back. The bike coming up next is more commonly found, but no less valuable. Schwinn Latour. The Latour launched in 1973 during the American bike boom and became Schwinn's fastest-moving upscale model through the mid-1970s. The name referenced the Tour de France directly, Schwinn's clearest and most public attempt to attach itself to European racing prestige. The frame was chromoly steel with a geometry borrowed from French road racing bikes, and early versions kit with Suntour VGT derailleurs, which are now regarded as among the best Japanese components of that entire era. Production ran through 1983, but the 1973 to 1976 models are the ones commanding serious money at auction. Weight on early examples was 23.5 pounds, identical to the sports tourer, but with a more aggressive riding position that appealed to younger buyers. Clean, original 1973 to 1976 Latours are now trading between $900 and $2,100, depending on color and component completeness. The sky blue colorway from 1974 consistently sells at the top of that range. Stripped or repainted examples drop to under $400. The bike at the top of this list was never sold in a hardware store and was never intended for the general American market at all. Schwinn Paramount Series 8. The Series 8 Paramount, produced between 1970 and 1979, represents the high point of American production road cycling in the 20th century. Schwinn's frame builders hand-brazed Columbus SL tubing, the same material used by professional European teams, with investment cast chrome moly lugs and a level of precision that was unmatched in American manufacturing at the time. The complete build included Campagnolo Nuovo record group sets, which in 1975 retailed for more than the entire price of most Schwinn production bikes. Weight on a complete Series 8 build came in at 20.5 to 21 pounds. Race documentation exists. Series 8 Paramounts were ridden at USCF national championship events through the 1970s with podium finishes on record. The cultural weight is real. This was the bike that serious American amateur cyclists pointed to as proof that domestic production could match Europe on equal terms. Today, a complete, unmodified Series 8 with original Campagnolo components is a $5,500 to $11,000 bike at auction. The open loop from the beginning of this video closes here. That $189 Schwinn from an Ohio hardware store in 1981 was a Varsity. The Series 8 Paramount bought that same year cost $685. Both have multiplied in value. The Series 8 multiplied more. That is the whole story of this list in one sentence. 13 bikes. The common thread across every single one is original condition and verifiable components. Repainted examples across every model on this list sell for 40 to 60% less than unmodified originals. That gap has only widened in the past 3 years as buyer sophistication has increased. The serial number dating resources at the Schwinn Bicycle Blue Book and the Classic Rendezvous Archive are the two most reliable starting points for identification before spending anything. Start with the serial, then the components, then the paint. In that order. The 1970s American bike boom produced more significant hardware than it gets credit for. Schwinn was competing seriously with European manufacturers on component quality by 1972, and the Sports Tourer and Superior Deluxe deserve far more collector attention than they currently receive. The Series 8 Paramount is already well documented and priced accordingly. That window has likely closed. The Sports Tourer is not fully priced yet. The Superior Deluxe even less so. Those two are where the current opportunity sits for anyone paying close attention in 2026. If any of these are already in a garage or storage unit, the identification guides linked below are the fastest way to confirm what is there. Subscribe for the next video, a breakdown of the 5 Schwinn frame builders whose personal work on the Paramount is now being tracked individually by serious collectors.